broadcast value of data, you know, which is, I don't know how much data is just used to drive a story that the fans would obviously be interested in, and how much the cricketers may or may not endorse. And I think
it's ready for television, is ready to enhance the viewer's experience, because at the moment I think we are all sort of frantic in our efforts to put the show on the road, on air. And nobody's really going into the creatives of the coverage. You know, we're just happy it's a live event and we put it on air and seamlessly it gets seen by people. We are happy. And I've always felt, because I've had more time, you do your commentary stint and you sit at the back and you're thinking. The producer is completely occupied, the director also constantly has got his 23 cameras to deal with. Who is looking at creatives and taking the experience forward for the viewer? And that's where I think the only way, because people are now tired about a commentator saying, you know, he got out because his feet didn't move. He didn't commit himself onto the front foot. People are going to sleep
and
with
that.
And
if it's the same commentator saying it for 30 years, then even, yeah, kidding.
I'm only 21, so I
20,
can
yeah, so
9 years.
Pass, yeah.
So if you have some exciting number, and I think IPL is followed more by such people who are fascinated by numbers than guys who watch one-day cricket, for example.
That's where Sanjay is showing the geekiness in him.
Yeah, now it's coming
He's
out.
the kind of commentator who, like he says, I'm the coach. I'm the coach who looks at numbers. He's the commentator. I know other commentators. Half an hour. Oh, it's not my half an hour. Oh, it's my turn. Okay, let's go in. and do a good job of it. But don't get me wrong.
So Rahul was with us for about 18 months, as commentator, and then.
Ultimately, it's a storytelling tool for the fans. So we can tell better stories with the numbers. We are never going to say that these numbers are absolute.
Sure.
We'll always recognize that there's skill and there's human instinct and there is something that...
I mean, that almost goes without saying.
Yeah, and when you of course forecast the probability, we're never going to claim that it's going to be 100%. Yeah. But
See, numbers are so important. For example, a very simple evidence of Vivian Richards as the batsman in the 70s and 80s. You know, great batsman, everyone said, one of the top batsmen in the world, cricket. But the distance between him and the other players around his time, people just imagined it. Then you look at a very simple stats guru or, strike rate. Gordon Greenidge in his one-day career, guess what his strike rate was? 67 or 68. Strike rate in 50 overs cricket. Vivian Richards in the 70s and 80s and a bit of 90s, strike rate of 90 in that time. So that is how you sort of convince people. So I don't go on air or write columns about saying Viv Richards is the ultimate. You put these numbers and the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, it's incredible.
To wind up this part of the chat on just the value of data and broadcast, with the way broadcast seems to be reinventing, more toys, more gadgets, touchscreens and whatnot, how big a role do you see data playing in it? Do you see, and are you of the opinion that commentators from whichever era must also buy into it, welcome it, therefore that will enhance the storytelling? Sometimes that comes
There are generally 6 or 7 commentators in any coverage, and there are at least 2 or 3 or maybe 4 who are interested in data. So you'll get that kind of balance.
Well, let's say Superstats comes into the commentary box tomorrow.
I'll be very excited.
It'll take a little time. It'll have to be welcomed first by the commentator for then that be picked and told in a story. You'd be keen on that?
Very keen, because I've always talked about impact. And when I look at 50 overs cricket and when you look at the top batsmen in 50 overs cricket, we look at aggregate runs.
Yeah.
And that is something that I hate about 50 overs cricket, because there's no Yuvraj Singh there in that list. I mean, he was one of the greatest one-day batsmen that the world has seen, but you only look at aggregate runs when you look at top one-day batsmen. And these are guys who had the clout. You bat in the top 1, 2 and 3. So if you bat at number 1, 2 and 3, you will end up becoming a great one-day batsman, which is a wrong way to look at a great one-day batsman.
You go with that? You need to have the clout to keep batting top 3 one-day cricket through your career?
Well, yeah.
I'll finish with Bob.
It's also partly performance. But I mean, I agree in the sense, I do agree with Sanjay in the sense that, and I think people are beginning to see that now. The bigger people, and that's where numbers are really helping.
I'll finish with one sentence here. I think the beauty of Smart Stats is that it evaluates the performance within the context of that game. Sure. So you get so that's where Viv Richards' performances in that era, in those games will come across. I'm sure when we run Superstats or one-day cricket, it will be validated.
The reason I'm stressing so much on why it would be important for even the commentators, like Rahul says, who's going to make sense of those numbers, and they need to accept it. From your initial questions, I think luck was the big contentious thing, the subjectivity on who applies it as an opportunity lost or not, what constitutes luck or what doesn't. So I'm just thinking now, if we can maybe take this conversation just on the luck aspect. Rahul, luck in cricket, where do you look back at your career and ever think of, oh, I got lucky here, or this happened because I was lucky, or are those the things that don't even come into the mind of a sportsman? I can see Sanjay already nodding, saying no, he was very lucky.
I think you've got to acknowledge luck, and you've got to accept that you're lucky. I mean, Sanjay's here, maybe I will say it, but...
No, please say it. Let's go back.
I mean, I just look at my own career, right? I mean, I look at how I started my career. I started in '96 in Lords.
Yeah.
The only reason I played that particular test match was because Navjot Singh Sidhu decided to leave the tour. And Sanjay Manjrekar got injured. I mean, now it's easy, I've played amount of cricket, but if you go back to '96...
Now it was not actually an injury. I just wanted the world to see Rahul Dravid. And I've always been that kind of a guy, to make the sacrifices.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Finally, I had to reveal. Couldn't keep it, it was bothering me for a long time.
No, because, there's no way. I mean, Sanjay, Sanjay Manjrekar, even if he had scored 0-0-0-0, he was not going to miss a test match. I mean, he was not going to be dropped from the team. There's no way. No chance, Sanjay. It's easy to say it now, but not in '96. This is the guy who had conquered Imran and Waqar and Wasim in
Thank
Pakistan.
God there was no luck index at that time. Because that's the only series that people talk about Sanjay's great performance in Pakistan. If the luck index was there, they would have seen Ramid Raja dropping catches at second slip, and that would have been accounted for. And
so that's interesting.
Like I'm saying, I get an opportunity to play that game.
Yeah.
I score 90, get 80 in the next game. I come back a different player. I don't get an opportunity to play those test matches. I come back, I'm back in domestic cricket. Yes, you can say, and I just don't want people to feel that, I'm just attributing everything to luck. The 5 years of domestic cricket that I played before that, the number of balls that I hit, all of that I did maybe put me in a best position to capitalize on that opportunity that I got. But I just needed the luck to get the opportunity. So it's not, I'm of the belief that it's not, you can't just say, I'm just going to be lucky all the time and play like that. But I think you, and most of us in everything, will sit back and acknowledge and look at our careers and say, yeah, I had a bit of luck there. I had a bit of chance.
So that's such a diverse view on how they sort of view luck. But for us, it's from the outside. And I'll come to you again, Raghu. Just when you devised this and you went to luck index, that's probably I would think one of the more challenging aspects of Superstats. But as an outsider, did it in any way change your view of how you see the game? You're a keen cricket follower too. But when you were applying this, you know that there's a chance the cricketers might look at it very differently.
We are looking at it very mathematically and then trying to see how do you quantify something which is looking so unquantifiable to a number. So clearly, I think as a player, you don't really think about it. You have to get past this. But as a fan, you really want to know who really played without a chance, right? That is always a gold standard in some sense in our head. So how do you compare someone who got 3 drop chances with one who got 1, and then someone scored 90, another one scored 70, right? So this is a very difficult thing to quantify. So the challenge of that was very interesting for us. So mathematically quantifying something like this is it's a real challenge.
What's actually going to work a lot for viewers is the forecaster. It's a very simple thing. It's been around for a while, but I can see, like, my son is not a cricket fan, but when he watches cricket with me, he's looking at, the WASP that New Zealand coverage had, winning percentage. And that is the thing for him, and I think that is going to be the one that will be, we would have looked at a lot, and people will pin their hopes on that. So if that continues to be very accurate, I think you've cracked it.
Was that, look, maybe you can talk a little bit more about forecaster, because like Sanjay is right, it might very well be that that's something that fans get gripped on the most, just the percentage, the chances of winning.
In fact, forecaster was born out of luck. Yeah. Because we wanted to quantify luck, that's why we had to simulate what would have happened. It's easy to say that you had 6 drop chances, but what was the impact of that luck? That's how the forecaster came in.
The forecaster probability, another interesting nugget is, so we looked at actually traditional probabilities of teams winning from different situations and so on. And so we were looking at IPL data, and then we found something really startling. Up to 2015, things that were thought of as unwinnable situations started becoming winnable by a large number, right? So 40% probability of winning from a situation became close to 70% after 2015. So we are talking about, so I've heard this in the commentary box many times where people say, don't worry about the number of runs you have to score in the last 4 overs. have enough wickets in hands and you will win, right? That is borne out actually by the data. Past 2015, if you were trying to score 50 runs of the last 4 overs with enough wickets in hand, your probability of winning was very close to something like 70–80%. Prior to 2015, it was very different. So the forecaster has both the probability data from the past and the forecasting that we do based on the current match, and it's an average of both. So we hope it will be highly accurate as we score more and more games.
Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and leave your comments in the comment section below. Click on the bell icon for notifications.